Welcome back. And today we will be talking about a double standard within the Watchtower. I don't know about you, but I did at one time try to do some work for a church. I was in the fire alarm business at the time. And in my territory, there was a Mormon assembly hall. And I call on all the churches in my territory because there's people there. And so I talked to the caregiver, and we talked about things, and he showed me his fire alarm, and it was beeping. So I went back to the congregation elders and asked if I could do a service call out there. They just needed it fixed, and we were living like 4 hours from the nearest city, from Edmonton, and all the way out to Cold Lake. So that was quite a drive to hire someone when there's a service guy right in the area. So anyways, let's see what the elders said. I'm going to take you to watching the Watchtower. Now, we get about 80% of our news out of watching the Watchtower. If you haven't heard of them, this is their site, Watching the Watchtower. I'll put a link to the video in the description below, so if you want to check their site out, you can. They're quite new. They've been online here since July 7th. We get about 80% of our news from watching the Watchtower. So Watching the Watchtower is anonymous, and they are really delving into all the legalities and everything about the Watchtower. So they really have a nice little newscast coming out. So if you haven't subscribed to them, subscribe, and it will certainly give them a lot more encouragement to keep doing more of this. So thank you again, Watching the Watchtower. Now, I'm going to look at this video here. Watchtower's property sales goes to other religious organizations. And so we're going to pull that up and look at that full screen. I'll put it up here.
To find the Elder's Manual, see the beginning of this video.
So elders determine whether or not there's going to be a judicial committee. And when it comes to apostasy, well, that could be employing, right at the bottom here, employment promoting false religion. So the Watchtower will take you to Watchtower 99, and they talk about it there. Continuing as employment that makes one an accomplice to or a promoter of false worship would be subject to disfellowshipping after being allowed 6 months to make the needed adjustments. So that's kind of how they do it. That's what I was told. If you decide to do that, you could get disfellowshipped. And a question from the readers right here is, some of Jehovah's Witnesses have been offered employment while involving religious buildings or property. What is the scriptural view? Well, they put some scriptures in here, but if you went to Revelation 18 and 4 and 5, it doesn't say any of this. All it talks about Babylon the Great and who's really to know what they are, right? So here's what it says. It says it's also vital that Christians act in harmony with the command to get out of Babylon the Great, the world empire of false religion. So Jehovah's Witnesses view all churches, all religions out there as something disgusting, as something just the bottom of the pit, and to get out of it and have nothing to do with it, never ever get an income from it. That's what the Watchtower has taught all of us. So we go on here, and but they have a double standard. This is from the Watchtower 99, April 15th article. And it says, what though about someone who is not a regular employee of a church or a religious organization? Perhaps he is called upon just to do an emergency repair work on a broken water pipe in the church basement. Would that not be different from his offering a bid on a contract, such for shingling and insulating and so forth? That's kind of was my situation. They just needed a repair done. And it says, the Watchtower goes on to say, what is the source of the pay or the location where the work is done? That's how they put it. Consider two situations, Watchtower says. He says, to improve its public image, an abortion clinic decides to pay a man to clean the neighborhood streets. His pay comes from the abortion clinic, but he does not work there and no one sees him in the clinic. Rather, they observe him doing a public work that of itself is not in conflict with the scriptures. No matter who pays him, you see, if the clinic pays him, then he can't take the work. So it says, what is the effect of doing the work? Will it hurt one's own conscience or stumble others? This is how Watchtower reasons. They say conscience should be considered, both our own and that of others. So if someone in the congregation knew you were doing that and they started to gossip about it, well, that's going to get you disfellowshipped if you continue to do it. And even if a certain work, including its location and source of pay, seems acceptable to most Christians, an individual may sense that it would trouble his personal conscience. The Apostle Paul, who set a fine example, stated, we trust we have an honest conscience. So you see, Watchtower's stand is that they don't want their people having anything to do with the church. Even, I know when I was in it, I had some worldly relatives that got married in a church, and the Watchtower people told me to stay away from the church. It's Babylon the Great. Don't even go into it. So let's see what if Watchtower goes into Babylon the Great. So it goes over to the next thing. Now let us go back to the main question of working on church buildings, such as installing windows and cleaning carpets, etc. How might that be viewed? So they say, recall the aspects of authority as the Christian, the owner, or the manager who can decide whether to take on such work on a church. And would a Christian having that authority want to share with Babylon the Great by bidding on a job or contracting to help some religion promote false worship? Would that not be comparable to deciding to sell cigarettes or idols in one's own store? So that's how they compare it, as if you're selling idols and cigarettes in your store would be the same as going and doing work at Babylon the Great, a church. So let's see what else comes up. Now, what about buying and selling kingdom halls to and from Babylon the Great? Does that make Watchtower an accomplice to false worship? I would say so. So we're going to look at some of this stuff. Jehovah's Witnesses kingdom halls sold. So here's one. It's the French-speaking Baptist of Stratford is the former Jehovah's Witness kingdom hall. So they sold that to a church. They had no problems. But yet we would get disfellowshipped if we even did a service call in that church and received a couple $100 for it. But here they're selling churches. They're selling to the churches, their kingdom halls. So here's another one. The Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses remains vacant Monday. The Baptist Church on Sunday approved the purchase of the Kingdom Hall. So here's another one. And great view. The Elms Church new premise in Wattle Downs was formerly the Jehovah's Witness New Zealand headquarters. So there you go. They sold the New Zealand headquarters. So the Hindu group buys Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Hall at Embleton. And so they don't care which religious group they're dealing with. So there's that one. Acting on behalf of Jehovah's Witnesses, our national market campaign. This is what they're saying. Considerable interest from factions of many different religions. That's what their own people are saying. And they're saying, fortunately, we were able to conduct most viewings before the coronavirus outbreak. And they're getting all these buildings sold. So let's carry on. Invited for vacant freehold interest, more than a dozen bids were received. Muslim community. So here they're dealing with the Muslim community, and they have no problems with that. The Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses on North Portage Path in Akron. It was sold to the St. Joseph's Catholic Church. And there's the Akron St. Joseph Catholic Church. So you can go and look at that. They have no issues taking money from Babylon the Great, but they have issues if you or I did some work for Babylon the Great and got a little bit of money to help them on their fire safety system or something like that. They have no issues. So definitely a double standard.
As a smaller church at this former Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses location, about 2.5 miles away on North Portage Path. Sunday will mark the last service at the old church, and on August 15th, the Bishop of the Melkites will perform the first service at the new church, a new beginning. And the parishioners are keeping the faith, hoping to grow the congregation at the new spot, recognizing it's not about the building, but the people inside of it.
So there you have it. They have no problems. It's all over the news. They don't mind being in the limelight of dealing with Babylon the Great. French-speaking Baptist church moves into a former Kingdom Hall. So they have no issues with the Baptist Church. And then the Jehovah's Witnesses sold the building at 494 Milford Point to a French-speaking Baptist church, $400,000 in June. I'm not sure which June. Now we're getting over to Sedona, Arizona, another area. And here they sold, Jehovah's Witnesses sold their church there. Who did they sell that to? I think we're going to find out who they sold it to. So they sold it to the Global Center for Christ's Consciousness. And we're going to take a look at it here, actually. We're going to go for a road drive. I'll get off the map here. So if you don't believe it, here it is. The Global Center for Christ's Consciousness, formerly United Sedona. So that was the Kingdom Hall. And they sold that to another church. And here's just the signs from different angles. And it's showing the dates. April 2021. Now here's June. The next one's June of 2018. It's a Kingdom Hall. Same sign. But it was a Kingdom Hall in 2018 before coronavirus. September 11th, it was a Kingdom Hall. You know, so just by the road maps and some of the Google searches, you can tell where these Kingdom Halls are sold and who's buying them. And it seems like a lot of churches, a lot of Babylon the Great is buying the Jehovah's Witness Kingdom Halls. So here's another one, Hartwick Pines Road. This one, we're going to take a drive on this one and take a look who bought this Kingdom Hall. So we're going to go down the road here, and this was a year ago, and is sold to the Evangelical Free Church. So there you go, Jehovah's Witnesses. You have no problems getting into bed with Babylon the Great. Now here's the same Kingdom Hall. This is the winter, November 2018, and it was sold in 2022. So yeah, they're selling Kingdom Halls left and right, and it's happening all over the world. In fact, so here it shows the Jehovah's Witnesses of Erie, Inc., West Erie Presbyterian Church, 110,000. So they're getting rid of that Kingdom Hall. And the Traders Point Christian Church has bought the historic former Jehovah's Witness Assembly Hall for $2.7 million, using a gift from some person in their congregation. So here's this church. This is a historical neoclassical revival building with these Tucson pillars, and it was designed by the architect, blah, blah, blah. But the point is that the Church of Christ Scientists had it. They sold it to the Baptist Church, and then Jehovah's Witnesses bought it in 1978. So Jehovah's Witnesses do not have a problem buying other churches. They have no problems with Babylon the Great, getting into bed with Babylon the Great. And while we're getting into the talk about churches, well, here's one in Prince Rupert. This is in my area up here in Canada, in northern BC. And they did a land swap with the RCMP, the police. The police wanted the building, so there's a little video on it. If you want to go to Watchtower, you can watch it. And they did a land swap. So Jehovah's Witnesses are getting rid of all kinds of buildings. And they said in this video that they're going to get free labor and donations to build them a new one. And it's already probably happening right now. So that's how they do it, folks. They sell these Kingdom Halls. They get good money for them. And then they get free labor from their cult members because everyone's brainwashed to believe it's Jehovah's work. But the Watchtower is selling all these buildings because they need money, and they need money to fight CSA cases. And that's the rest of the story, folks. When you talk about the Watchtower, they do need the money. And they will use the members to build and donate all their new churches. That's how they do it. So that's the rest of the story. And until next time, keep living your life with love. Bye for now.
Thank you.